Christmas has always been my favorite time of the year. I was that kid, maybe to a little bit of annoying degree to my parents, that was pushing for like a November Christmas lights and Christmas tree setup, maybe early November, occasionally the beginning of October. But I loved Christmas, and I still love Christmas, everything about it. There's a feeling in the air. I remember sitting there at my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve with the fireplace going and looking out the window and seeing occasionally that freshly fallen snow, especially at night when every bit of light just kind of bounces off of it and it gives that twilight glow. The smell of the Christmas tree, or in my family's case, the plastic Christmas tree, but still there's just something about those moments. Maybe driving home from my friend's house and having the heat blast and listening to Delilah on the radio giving Christmas requests and different Christmas songs and dedications. There's something about the season that really just pulls you in. But if I'm honest, I've also had Christmases, especially within the ministry, where I've completely missed Jesus. Not intentionally, mind you, not because I didn't love him, but because I was so busy doing stuff for him that I never actually spent any time with him. And maybe that's you. You're a pastor, a leader, a volunteer, someone that's so deep in the season you feel like you're kind of drowning in it. You're busy planning services, prepping messages, setting up for events, and by the time that Christmas Eve hits, if you honestly search yourself, you'll see that, hey, you know what? I've actually spent zero time with Jesus, the one that I've been talking about, the one that I've been pushing, the one that all these events are for. I've spent the whole month doing things for him without actually spending any time with him. I'm Josh, and this is a very special Christmas edition of Beyond the Numbers. A few years ago, I was part of a church that, like many churches, they were trying to find something unique to do around the Christmas season to bring in congregation members and to make it feel more special. And so I pitched an idea. What if we do Christmas experiences? Basically, after every service in December, there would be some type of event that is happening outside that would tie in the community and the families of the church together. They loved the idea. And so I began working on it, pitching it, creating every little detail for it, and we launched these Christmas experiences. There were weeks where they would make ornaments and take some home for their family and put some up on our church Christmas tree. There were other times that we had a hot cocoa bar, other times that we were doing stuff for the community. But the idea was, it was to bring the family, the church, the community closer together to experience Christmas on a whole new level, with Christ still being the center and the focus. And on paper, it went amazing. Beautifully. People they loved it. The photos were spectacular. The services looked amazing. The families had a blast together. Everyone was drawing closer and coming together as a church family, truly experiencing Christmas. But behind the scenes, I was exhausted. At that point in time, I was running youth ministry, doing Sunday school, doing weekly events, midweek studies, faith clubs at schools, and then I was also helping teach during that season in the actual main services, on top of planning, putting together, staffing, and building these Christmas experiences. And often I was doing it alone. Delegation was impossible. I pitched this idea as the staff coming together and working together. As being the youth guy, most of the time I was there to help out all these different ministries, but at that moment and that time and that season, everyone just had their own lane. They didn't really want to switch or share or merge. They had their own to-do list, the different expectations they had. And I remember I would ask and request, and I just felt like I was running it all by myself because everyone always had excuses. And there was one staff meeting where I finally hit a breaking point, and I just shared how hurt I was that I was overwhelmed and no one could help me. This idea of the staff coming together and working together on this thing for the church family became me carrying it alone. And so I broke down and I shared that with the staff. There were some heartfelt exchanges and different things that were said. But then after the meeting, I was pulled aside and I was told, well, that's what leadership is. And that I needed to be less emotional about it and just keep on chugging along. And so I did. I pushed through. Continued to make sure everything looked great, ran on empty, making sure that there were smiles and happiness from the church as they got to share this experience together. And then Christmas Eve hit. And let me just tell you, like, everything looked incredible. We had snow falling in Los Angeles. As the people would leave, they had the snow, they had the photo booth set up, they had the big, huge Christmas tree with all of their beautiful ornaments on it, and then they had these little booklets about the story of Jesus where the family could take their photo and put it in and remember that their family mattered at Christmas time, but the big focus was Jesus, the center of it all. And in between services, I remember I had finished setting up, getting ready for the next service, and I walked inside listening to another service that I really wouldn't be a part of because of this busyness. And it wasn't so much the teaching, but I heard the actual biblical story of Jesus and his birth. I heard the scriptures being read. And suddenly, it hit me. I realized something so gut-wrenching. In all my ministry, I had missed Jesus that season. I had been so busy trying to celebrate the idea of Christmas that I never stopped to celebrate Christ. And what hit me like a ton of bricks was I was doing exactly what Bethlehem did. I mean, looking at the Christmas story, the little town of Bethlehem, that town at that time was busy. It was popping. It was chaotic that night. People going everywhere. Travelers, business, chaos. The inns were full. Why? Because the government was making people go back to their hometowns. And because of that, everything was packed out. Everyone had a reason to be busy. And here come Mary and Joseph into a town that literally has no room for them. On the verge of giving birth, and no one in the town had any spots open for them. They all had a reason to be busy. And because of that, most of the people in that town missed the most important thing to happen in the history of the world, which was happening right outside of their doors. And I think if we're honest, a lot of times doing ministry at Christmas time can feel just like Bethlehem. I mean, there's so much noise. There's so much chaos. There's so much movement and deadlines and productions and pageants and holy busyness that we all have to be a part of. But the danger is this. We can work so hard for God that we forget to be with God. And inside, the same thing happens in our hearts like happened in that little town. Jesus arrives quietly and no one realizes it. See, we talk about peace on earth. Meanwhile, many of us are just chugging along on fumes. We preach joy to the world while we're running on caffeine and stress. We share with our congregations to rest in God, and meanwhile, we're up till 1, 2, and 3 o'clock in the morning, finishing up services and teachings and slideshows. And in the middle of all of that chaos, we miss the biggest miracle of all, that God came near. What if this Christmas, instead of striving to make it perfect, we instead tried to make sure that we were just present? Instead of asking, like, what more can I do for God this month, and more for the congregation, and more for the people, we ask ourselves, where is a moment in time that I can pause to just be with God? See, if we've talked about anything in this series, one of the biggest takeaways that we have is that healthy ministry doesn't come from producing more and more and more. More than anything, healthy ministry comes from abiding more in God. Jesus didn't enter the world surrounded by metrics. pageants or church programs. He came quietly in a manger. And maybe more than anything, what he wants from us is to allow ourselves and our people to be available to him. Maybe he doesn't want our polished performances, but more than anything, he wants our presence. What if this year, and I realize we're coming up to like the final week of Christmas, but what if this year, with the little time that you have left, you took a night off from planning and just spend some time around the tree with your family? What if we decided to not measure our success about Christmas based on services and attendance, but instead how deeply you and your people connected with God and encountered Jesus? What if you got to the point where you allowed yourself to enjoy the wonder of the season? See, it's interesting because as I look back at all those nostalgic moments as a kid, I crave those moments. I crave those times. I crave those Christmases. And we do our best to try to replicate those things, don't we? And yet, if I think about it in those moments, I would give a hard time going to my grandparents. I wanted to spend more time under the tree with presents than actually soak in the season. I remember those long drives listening to the radio, and I wasn't like, this is so great. I was like, this drive, why is it so cold? Oh my goodness. Like, there are all these different things that in the moment we don't realize how special it is, and then later on we realize what we are missing out on. Don't allow your Christmas season to be so overwhelmed by the ministry that you, yourself, your congregation, your family miss out on Jesus and look back and say, I wish I had just spent more time with him this season. And for many of us, when we think about it that way, we walk away with guilt. We wear that guilt heavy for the times that we missed him, for the times that we've fallen short, for the seasons that we spent so much time on the program that we missed our Savior. And maybe for some of us, we almost picture God upset about that. Can I tell you what? Jesus is not angry at those things, but he's patient with us. And the most amazing thing is that the Savior that was born quietly in Bethlehem still meets with us where we are. Even in the midst of our exhaustion, our burnout, and our busyness. In the midst of all of that, he still whispers to us, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest." My challenge to you in this holiday season is not to rush through it. For those that have families, don't sacrifice your family, your kids, your spouse, or your soul for the church season. And like I sometimes do, don't look back at these seasons and wish you had connected more with your Father. Wish that you had soaked in more of what he was doing. Don't look back and have those regrets. Instead, choose today to abide more in him. And can I tell you the biggest thing that you can do this season? It starts with slowing down. No matter the chaos, no matter what you still have on your plate this year to get through, slow it down. Breathe. Open your eyes and heart, and don't miss Jesus. Thank you guys for tuning into this shorter but very special Christmas episode. As we've reached the end of season 1, I just want to share with you a hope that you find Jesus, not just in the season, but as your Savior. So, from my family to yours,
Merry Christmas! And a Happy New Year!
I didn't say anything. Snow! Ready? Ready? Ready?
Ready?
Okay.
I farted.
Ready? So
I
from.
farted.
Ew. Ugh, it smells like
Oh my
egg.
gosh.
Rotten egg.
Oh my goodness!
Can you smell it?
Ava!